front. My team has put on stage this amazing slide that's going to help you. All you've got to do is share some pictures, videos, be active, what the key takeaway has been on Twitter or now X. So all you have to do is make sure that you share those points that you felt can be a learning experience for all those who follow you. And all you've got to be a part to participate in this session is that you have to follow us, which is MAPIC India. I would like to request you to please tag us at MAPIC India in all the tweets that you're emitting, and also please do remember to use the hashtag, which is hashtag MAPIC India 2026. Only when you tag us will my team be able to see that you're doing a lot of posts, whether it is posts and pictures of our panel on stage, whether it is any thoughts, whether it is group photographs with you and your colleagues right here, or elements from our exhibition zone where I'll be welcoming you during the networking segment. Now that we have our stage set, our next session is going to focus deep and talk about a very interesting concept right here. How is it that MAPIC India special where inside the Q-commerce disruption? Who today owns the consumer? How is it that the rapidly reshaping consumer behavior and retail strategies are today driven by rampant demand for convenience and hyperlocal fulfillment? All this and more coming your way, all thanks to our spectacular speakers joining us on stage. How is it that physical stores fit in this instant delivery ecosystem? How can we build this instant economy? So please do put your hands together as I welcome our moderator. We're so glad to have amongst us Milind Rohinesh, Head of Retail, India, Cushman and Wakefield, joining us. A round of applause for the absolutely brilliant moderator. May I present you our esteemed speakers for this fireside chat. We have with us Kavindra Mishra, Managing Director and CEO, Shoppers Stop, who's literally flown in from Mumbai just for us to be a part of this very interesting conversation. So a round of applause as we appreciate his presence. May I present to you Ms. Pushpa Bector, Senior Executive Director and Business Head, Retail, DLF. Of course, once again, we bring to you a very renowned industry leader here on stage. Please put your hands together as I welcome Ms. Pushpa Bector here. May I have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Devesh Sane, Chief Growth Officer, Zepto, to be part of this very interesting conversation, because who better than him to talk about Q-commerce today? Thank you so much for your presence. As a mark of respect to my wonderful speakers, may I please request our guests to take a seat. As we kickstart this conversation, I would like to humbly request all my wonderful guests here, as a mark of respect to my speakers on stage, may I request you all to please take a seat so that we can kickstart with our next discussion. Please do take a seat. We're about to begin with our next discussion. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, panelists. It's a heavyweight, and I think thank you for coming in and agreeing to be part of this interesting discussion, because I think MAPIC over the years has discussed some really interesting topics. I think Pushpa and Kavindra will know as veterans, will online take over offline, brick and mortar will be affected. The pandemic, we had the pandemic, food aggregators, but upon us now is of course quick commerce. And it's something which as consumers, let's face it, has spoiled us to some extent, our families. It's upon us, and I was just having a chat with Devesh, who just told us it's quite a nascent development, only 5 years, but it feels like quick commerce has been around for the longest time. So on that note, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to what we think is one of the most relevant conversations in retail today, inside the quick commerce disruption. We're at a point where convenience is no longer a differentiator, it's an exception, and the question is no longer whether quick commerce will impact retail, but how deeply it will reshape it. I think to unpack this, I'm joined by 3 industry heavyweights who sit at the heart of this transformation across platforms, brands, and destinations. We have Devesh Sane from Zepto, one of India's fastest quick commerce platforms, and of course, I think we all have used it at some point in this room. We have Pushpa from DLF, she needs no introduction, at least on home turf. So yes, and Kavindra Mishra from Shoppers Stop, who also needs no introduction, but I think a round of applause for them, please, and for joining us on stage. Thank you. In the interest of time, I think, this may be a question for all 3 of you at your pace, but let me start with Kavindra. Who really owns the consumer today, in your opinion? Is it the brand, the platform, or whoever delivers fastest?
Uh, Thanks. No, I think customer is owned by the customer, man. I don't think anybody has the right to own the customer because customer doesn't think linear. Okay. Uh, when you spoke about the brand or the retail platform or the fastest way to deliver are all brands in a certain way because they communicate a certain value which for me is important as a consumer and why customer we also are customers, right? So in certain cases in certain categories at certain points of time in our interaction one platform becomes relevant. In certain cases the other platform becomes relevant. So I think the question is not who owns the customer. The in my mind the question is when the customer is transiting over various usage occasions and needs, is your platform relevant or not? And you know this journey, and we are talking about quick commerce now. When I started my career in 1999, you called me a veteran, so it's now 27, 28 years. In 2001, we used to discuss that, you know, now the EBOs are coming, so multi-brand outlets will not have any future. Then the departmental stores will come. Then the traditional outlets will change. Then e-commerce came in. In fact, I was one of the original e-commerce founders in 2011. But what we don't give weightage is that the customer is evolving and she is able to figure out uh, which format, which purpose is solving their needs. So in my mind, customer is owned by the customer. The brand has to be relevant at that point of time for the consumer for his or her interaction. So I think I give far more credit to the consumer than either the brand or the retail platform or the fastest way to deliver. I would look at this as a whole in this way.
Thank you so much for that. Pushpa, your views?
Well, I totally agree with what Kavi is saying that the customer today is far more evolved than what he or she was 10 years back or 5 years back. So the customer on a given day chooses what she wants from Q-commerce, what she wants to go to shop physically, and what she wants to purely just experience. It's really the choice that has, the power rests with the consumer. The consumer is the one who is navigating all channels very smartly, very intelligently. They know what is it that they need to blink it or Zepto it. They know what they want to, go to the neighborhood mall or a destination mall. They know when to go to a department store like Shoppers. And they understand that, okay, if I have, it depends on the kind of purchasing need that they have. So today, if a consumer wants occasion purchase, they know that they need to see range, they need to see sizing and fitment. They will head to Mall of India, Mall of Asia, whichever mall, they'll head to a large mall and spend the day. We have seen that the stickiness in a mall has increased after COVID, not decreased. And this is when Q-commerce really has shot up. I always tell people that today the consumer discovers digitally and then comes to shop physically. So the challenge that we all have, all three, is that we have a customer who is much more ahead of the game, and we need to train our people to ensure that they create that sticky point when they arrive at our spot or at the marketplace, both.
Great. I think, like you said, it's been an enabler for the customer, and the customer's evolved. Devesh, your views?
I think Sir and Ma'am covered most of the points, but I think I'll reverse the thing. I think consumer owns all of us today. All right. If you look at it, every business has evolved in a direction where consumer demanded things. Consumer demanded convenience, consumer demanded variety, consumer demanded assortment, and that's where the models have developed, right? As we progress towards technology, as we progress in terms of distribution models, I think this is the ever evolving phase where consumers get more power than all of us. So therefore the decision of where do I want to explore things, where do I want to quickly, instantly gratify my needs versus where do I really go and demand pricing, where do I really go and demand luxury, etc., it's in consumers' hands today, right? And I think we are following the lead. So as ma'am said, I think we are evolving with consumers rather than consumers evolving. I think the moment consumer puts out a need in front of us, it's a job between 3-4 of us to fulfill it.
Interesting. On that note, Pushpa, you said something so insightful. So from the consumer, has the consumer, the new age consumer, forget us on stage, maybe we are at a different age group, but the younger generation, right? Have they moved from brand loyalty to delivery loyalty, you feel?
So in my house, we have a millennial and a Gen Z, and I watch them very closely on what they do. And in and around, I'm a people watcher, it's required. What I see generally is that Gen Z look at Q-commerce almost naturally. Okay, for them it is very easy, par for the course, because their requirement is certainly urgent. They want fulfillment very, very quickly, and they get it. They are not as price sensitive, and hence they just go ahead and order what they want. They're not really looking at isme kya 20% extra laga hua hai. They don't bother about that. However, when it comes to millennials, millennials are still millennials, and may I say, not baby boomer. Baby boomer is definitely physical shopper yet, but millennial and the, what do you call that, Gen X. Gen X, both of them are looking at convenience. When it is convenient, then they go to Q-commerce, but otherwise their thought process is still, let me touch, feel, and then, buy. So it really depends on how the consumer's mindset is, that in terms of value proposition, A. And B, today, honestly, the biggest luxury that all of us in whatever age category we have is time. Time is the larger luxury. So if we have time, we will develop and invest that time in creating a better experience for ourselves. We will go and shop that sari, shop physically, to see how it feels and then buy. If we do not have time, well, they would look at Q-commerce because, it's easy and convenient, and hence they will move there for certain products. I would still say when it comes to fashion, it's very dependent on the kind of occasions that you're talking about. When it comes to fashion, when it comes to elements like occasion buying, when it comes to experiences, when it comes to maybe buying a phone now has become almost commodified. But when it comes to us understanding what that phone can do for you, do you know iPhone 7's all features? The answer is no. Then you will head to a physical spot. So I would always say it's about the thought process of what's going on in the consumer's mind, not really generalizing Gen Z versus millennial versus Gen X.
True, I think because you can't take away the experiential feeling that you want on buying, making that special purchase, I guess. Kavindra, on that note, Shoppers Stop obviously traditionally has always given the brick and mortar experience. It's gone on to evolve for the online platform as well. So from your perspective, have you seen a different consumer trend on brand loyalty versus delivery loyalty? Some views on that front?
I mean, what Pushpa is saying, I would just second that. I think what we are seeing is, so 2.5, 3 years back, we had a very hard thing of who we are and what do we want to, which is the TG we want to service, right? Because you can't be everything for everybody, especially when the formats are getting very precise and so are the customer needs. So we took a call that we want to be experiential. We want to build a bridge to luxury version of Shoppers. And I think the teams have been working on that for the last 24, 30 months, and we have seen some amazing successes. When I say experiences, experiences are things like great brands, because product has to be driven by experience, but you have a personal shopper service in Shoppers Stop. So around 400 odd personal shoppers deliver more than 1,000 crore of revenue for us. Last year, they have done that kind of business. There will be very few brands or fashion brands in the country would be at 1,000 crores plus, right? In a lot of our stores, you have kids play areas. So what we have tried to do is we have pivoted completely on the journey of premiumization and experience. And what we are seeing is, so like when I joined, a lot of questions were asked to us that, what is the relevance of a departmental store? Why should it succeed? Because all of us look at the US market and say, okay, it has failed there. It won't succeed in India. But I think it's very different. We are very similar to how Southeast Asia works. If you are able to premiumize, if you are able to get the right merchandise mix, if you are able to give that experience to the customer, you will do well. So as a format, we have started seeing mid-single digit like-for-like customer entries in our stores. which for a physical format and a format which started in 1991. And a lot of our stores, you know, are 30, 35 years old. So what I'm trying to say is that there are all kinds of customers. We should choose where you want to pivot. And the moment you fix that piece, so what we are seeing right now, for example, there's a big boom in non-apps. So Shopper Stop started as apparel selling men's shirts, formal shirts. Right now we are around 43, 44% non-apps. And we are seeing it increasing by 200 basis point every year. So I think there are product categories are changing. We have been able to customize the way we want to service to our consumers as per their needs. And the brands are changing. But at the end of the day, I think the promise is who you are. You can't be everything for everybody. So we chose a young family. We said we will neither go for Gen Z. So we don't define Gen Zs and all because we want to premiumize. We say, okay, this is the age. 30 years, nuclear family is my core. The brand promise and the experiences will build around it. And I think it took us some, because when you decide on a very core promise, then you let go of a lot of things, which is always a pain because you were doing it like this for so many years. We have changed that and we are seeing the difference. But at the end of the day, if you are true to your core and if you are true to your TG, which is, and the experiences which you give is premiumization and experience, you will do well. So I think we have seen that change happening. And primarily, I think there's a big boom in the country right now around non-apps. So fashion is more or less there, but I think there's a lot of consumption happening in categories like watches and beauty, which is like out of the park.
That's very insightful. Thank you so much, Kavindra. Devesh, for you, we have the new consumer, which has speed, habit, and behavior. So for that, on that note, how dramatically has instant gratification changed expectations? And is there any going back from a 10-minute delivery?
I think the question is not just about speed, right? Speed is one of the tools that the platform provides. So if you look at quick commerce, the 4 pillars of quick commerce are speed, pricing, assortment, and quality, right? If you have all the 4 and you have consistent experience, then the platform becomes a habit. So the differentiation is not just speed, but speed is a marketing tool or speed is a service. The consistency is what the customer requires. And if you provide that consistent experience continuously, you form a habit. For example, the moment you place more than X orders, you start behaving as if this platform is your own, right? You may, as ma'am said, right? The exploration can happen anywhere, but if we can create a platform which fulfills that need in the earliest possible time, there are segments of population who will be willing to go forward with it, who will be willing to explore this. And that's the key of building that platform, not just speed.
Understood. Thank you for that. Pushpa, on that note, you just mentioned about consumer behavior changing in the stickiness aspect, right? So are you seeing this behavioral shift reflect in how consumers engage with malls? Like you said, frequency, time spent, intent. How have you gone about mapping that and understood that change?
So I'll tell you very interestingly, during COVID, what we decided is that we categorized consumer behavior and what kind of products or malls that we should be building as DLF. So what we did is that, yes, there is a Mall of India type destinational malls, which gives a stickiness of at least 3 to 4 hours, and a person enters a Mall of India like large property, a 2 million property, they invest minimum 4 hours, visit a minimum of around 10 stores. So that's great stickiness that you get, 10 stores, F&B, etc., etc. Now when it comes to a city mall, which I will categorize as, say, a promenade or an avenue or a select city walk, you will be amazed because cities have become so congested. So their drivers are actually food. Food is a big driver for them to head. And which is why Commons, when we did Avenue, we said, okay, let's invest 30% of the space to food and drive stickiness and almost unmall it and create a lifestyle proposition. So in our city malls, you will see a lot of events, engaging events, that you are defining how the consumer spends their weekend. What do? They have the right kind of Gen Z-like concerts. They may be, on Q-commerce, but they also want an adrenaline high. So when we did that, and we married that with food, it worked wonders. So in city malls, that's the strategy that we have. Another interesting one that we did is that we said we were coming up with a lot of um, neighborhood plazas, which are really 3 lakh square feet, small spaces, open air. And we said that we will be anchoring the neighborhood, which is primarily DLF neighborhood, Midtown Plaza and Summit Plaza. Both of them, one is open, the other is just about opening. Now, these two are actually our answer to Q-commerce. Because what happens in Q-commerce is it's that quickness, right? It's down the road, you're able to just order in. However, what about a space where you do have those 200 brands, but not really the typical mall brand that you see, more service-oriented, more food-oriented, and definitely much more small boutique-oriented, where a lot of the D2C brands can have space. We have had a fantastic response in Midtown. So we think a customer will come in down the road in a pair of shorts, pick up something. Again, physical retail, touch, feel is what we will go for. And we've seen that D2C players also, they may be doing really well, but there comes a saturation point for those D2C brands where they want a physical play. They don't even get the right valuation without it. And I can name at least 20 of them whom we curated, and then the valuation really skyrocketed. So I would always say that it's a blend of the two. Where physical retail will always prosper is because we are, may I say, the kings or queens of curation. We know how to curate and create that experience. Curation is our first experience benchmark. The second experience that we do is what we do when the person arrives. How special is that person feeling? And each property types, the special feeling is different. So you got to work at it. And the third thing that I would say is that what is the kind of experience that the store gives when, or the food and beverage outlet gives. Now, all these three as, put together is what creates that magic potpourri. And it's ever evolving. If we think that we've cracked the magic, the next year, the customer says, oh, no, hold it. I don't like this. So you got to keep at it. Retail is all about, be it Q-commerce or physical retail, is all about being on the treadmill to try and get that consumer's thinking pattern or choice towards you. That's really where it is.
Thank you. I think the learning from that is, yes, as Kavindra earlier mentioned, the pivot, understanding your consumer, and in the case of malls, seeing which categories are the drivers, right? That's the evolution.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you. On that note, Kavindra, for you, like you mentioned, right, to identify that core customer or the right customer is within that family dynamic. You could have a family of 4 come in, and some are the young gen, they're also active in some way on the Q-commerce platform. All of us are in some way, right? So in that sense, the shopper stop experience, which remains non-negotiable, you did mention some key points, how that has evolved for you all. How do you see that evolving to keep the customer engaged? Certain non-negotiables for you.
No, again, see, I think it goes very deep, right? So let's assume that why would a customer shop from a departmental store? I think that's the first level question. Forget about quick commerce or, yeah. There are brand consumers and there are consumers who are getting into the brand journey and they are still confused, right? So we are able to attract to that second type customer very well. Customers who want choice, I think that's where we fit in. I think, as I said, for us, everything which is experiential is what we try to drive in Shopper Stop. Our loyalty program and what we have now close to 13 million consumers, more than 5.5 crore people walk into our stores every year. These 13 million people, we know everything about them. They are split into 9 personas. We know what is their shopping behavior, what is the kind of nudge they need to know. Then I spoke about the personal shoppers, the kind of service which they give. I don't think any format can even be close to what we do with our customers, right? So we have a line call in our anthem which is called Had Se Aage. So we take it a point that the shoppers, the consumers feel us as a part of their family. That is where it comes in. We, in a lot of our stores, around 60 stores now, we have kids play area. In a lot of cases, consumers are coming, leaving their kids to play within Shopper Stop and they are shopping somewhere else. It's fine with us. because we know that that's our consumer, she will come back to us, right? In men's area, we have started putting gaming arcades. So while their wives are shopping, they can actually play, when we were young people, because you also have called us veteran and we are not of young age, right? And both of Pushpa and I were looking at each other. We used to have video game parlors, right? Where you used to pay 10 rupees and play for 1 hour. A lot of our stores now have those video game arcades. So I think it's the magic which comes across all these. So product curation, I think, which everybody touched upon. It's about the personal shopper experience, a beautiful loyalty program which knows you so well, not direct discounting, but through a lot of experiences. So we, take our customers for Sundarban rides, or we take them for yacht. We do a lot of workshops for them. So I think it's something which is built across various levels. But at the end of the day, you keep on curating better products. You keep on curating brands which are not easily available. So I think that's the journey in which we are in. And that's where the experience wins. And I think the proof of that is a format which had struggle in getting walk-ins. We are growing beautifully in terms of the walk-ins, I think, which is the proof of the pudding. So in my sense, anything, if Pushpa knows which market she wants to open, which kind of the mall, right? And the same is with them as well, and with us. If we know our consumers well, and if we curate our product and service experiences around it, I think that's magic.
If I may add one small thing, I think today's consumer, whichever age category, has a special need to feel special and customized. So I think Q-commerce has cracked one thing, which is through data, they know their consumers' thought process through their algorithms, and I think they are able to sort of spew the right kind of messaging. Now, where we in physical retail have caught up is in understanding our customers better through data. Yeah. That is one thing that we have done much better now than what we did earlier, because we can't take consumers for granted, and making them feel special in whatever ways we can.
The inputs received right now, I think, beautifully summarize, which my next subtopic was, but we'll skip that because the transformation of physical retail, I think you've answered that in the way malls have adapted. I think Kavindra has answered that the way Shopper Stop was adapted. I think so. Just moving on to the next point of data, like Pushpa brought it up. So discovery, data, and the consumer relationship. So Devesh, for you, right? We just had a chat earlier where you said certain D2C brands are increasingly launching on quick commerce platforms first only before they go to physical retail. Pushpa beautifully answered that before, how they need the physical platform eventually for the experience. Those guys will first move to shelf space, maybe within Shopper Stop, then go to the proper full-fledged store within the malls, right? So does that fundamentally shift where discovery happens? And what does that mean for them if certain brands which you feel as a category may never need the physical space? There could be some categories, right, in that?
So I think there's two parts to the question. I'll answer both. The first one first, right? I think the customer journeys now become continuous. It's not broken. So for example, it's not scheduled of saying today I will explore, tomorrow I'll go to the mall, or tomorrow I'll go to quick commerce and order. I think it's become continuous. For example, the exploration can happen either physically, as ma'am said, for a deep research, or it can happen through ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. And they realize that this is what I need. Where is it available? Where is it cheapest? Where is it the most effective for me, right? I think so therefore the journeys become much more continuous. So it's not broken anymore. I think that's the first part of the crux. If you imbibe that in your behavior, where you say that customer will always look for the most easiest path out or the most optimal path out, I think that's where you have to optimize on. Once you understand that part of it, it becomes easier to answer the second part, which is saying that it can happen through whichever channel it needs to, right? And I think that's the exploration, the question of exploration, I think that should be uniform across all platforms. Specific D2C brands, will it be always offline? I think that's a futuristic question where I don't have an answer to. But we've seen good examples of D2C brands that have risen on quick commerce and then went fast spread. So for example, if you look at GoZero, right? I think GoZero was predominantly quick commerce for a lot of time. It then expanded to multiple. And there are multiple examples that I can cite from D2C brands. But will it be in future? I don't think I have an answer to it. It's an evolving process. And that's how we have to look at it.
Thank you. Kavindra, on that note, right? Again, data mining, quick commerce platforms are building incredibly rich consumer data, frequency, baskets, behavior. On your program for the first citizen, how do you compete with that or trying to, use that data to your benefit?
No, yeah, I think our data is very rich, okay, because as I said, 13 million consumers, first citizen data, uh, every year more than 3.5 million transactions happening. We know about the category affinities, we know about where does this customer stay, if she's buying Guess handbag, which is the apparel category she's going to buy. So I think both in terms of what messaging to do, the personalization in messaging, the categories to nudge. We have this through a very beautiful, so as I said about persona, so we have got personal shoppers, they have this app which will actually tell you if they have bought this last time, what is the affinity for them to buy which product category next time. I think the data is very rich and we work very, very closely on this. In fact, uh, our loyalty program and the machine learning engine behind it is very powerful. I mean, that's the way we have been able to give you a sense how beautifully we are using it. 82% of our revenue is now driven by the first citizen customer. And this is after 40% of customers coming every month who are new customers for shoppers. So we are not only getting more recruitments, we are also able to use that customer data really well. So I think we follow this old journey. So my sense is there are close to 200, 250 customer journeys which we have. So we know that if you have come through beauty, which are the next categories you will buy. If you have come through apparel, which are the next categories you will buy. Your first basket, your second bill, your third bill. I think there are a lot of these customer journeys which we have enabled in our system, which helps us to track that customer, reach out to her. But I know data may ek point hai, which we should all remember with the new DPDP Act. We have to be very careful about how we are using the data. So everybody has to take the approvals again. And I mean that's something which will be relevant for, I think, all of us. But the customer journeys are very powerful. I think we use it well. To Pushpa's point, I think we have started using it well. Yeah.
So on that note, Pushpa, DLF has been a pioneer in, evolving to trends, right? Like you've been always mentioning, right? So do you see a possible collaboration with quick commerce platforms at some stage? Could be futuristic, but just your thoughts. Could be.
Well, I don't know about Q-commerce completely, but in our neighborhood plazas, we've actually starting a service of a person wants something, it can be delivered. So we are tying up with a platform so that, it's you're down the road, you want something quickly, order in, and it can be delivered. So yes, we are going that route too, because ultimately you got to solve consumer points and elements of consumers. On data, I'd like to just tell a bit. We in DLF malls, we did look out during COVID, but after that, we started a very strong loyalty program, DLF Rewards. It's a little, I would say, we should have done this 3 years back. Nevertheless, but the moment we started it, you'll be amazed that in 6 months' time, we had over 100,000 users who had logged on to that. And now, so the thing is that consumers want rewards, consumers want gratification, and they want to feel special. Again, it comes down to that same thing. So it really, I think data, once we do this, then our B2B element will be there, but the B2C will improve. So our endeavor is also to, like all Q-commerce companies, improve the B2C connect. And malls always have that as an issue. Who's our consumer? We just look at footfalls. Now, footfall is such a, shall I say, not an intelligent way of understanding your consumer. So you got, this will give us that edge where we know, how many men came in, how many women came in, what's their age group, where do they go. We will be able to analyze far, far better, other than just analyzing categories. Across all malls in the country, I'm sure we do category analysis, so we know through our sales data, what is it, how much of beauty, how much of, which category is working well, and that's how we look at trends. Our trend is always based on how much more space do we give to a category, depending on the sales growth, and that's how we curate. So yeah, data is king.
Thank you so much for that. I think on that note, Devesh, the backend, the invisible infrastructure to most of us consumers who enjoy the privilege of sitting on our couch and ordering what we need is finding the right dark store location is complex. Dense markets are expensive, cheaper ones are inefficient. Is there a case for partnership with existing retail real estate? And how do you go about, this hunt?
See, the success of Q-commerce business is how much you can sweat a dark store, right? The maximization of number of orders per day that you can push to the store is the key to profitability, right? And hence that becomes the single most driver for us to figure out a optimum location. Now, that location can be in any constraint. For example, it can be in back of an alley, it can be an old warehouse, it can be an original store. All those things are possible. Again, the North Star metric that you have to look at is the OPD per store or orders per day per store. If that meets a particular bar, I think any location is feasible to create a house.
Thank you. On that lens, Pushpa, from a real estate perspective, your malls have a waiting list, rightfully so. But any underutilized retail spaces that you see can be part of the ecosystem for, quick commerce guys at some point?
Well, I can only say this, that we have Zomato walkers in all Cyber Hub and Cyber Park and all our office parks. We have Zomato as well as Swiggy who actually order in, and people order and then they're able to pick it up from the nearest restaurant, Cyber Hub or Cyber Park, and deliver it upstairs. So we are always looking at how do we please our consumer through various channels. So yes, that's the way it works.
On that note, Kavindra, like you mentioned, right? Say, let's talk India is beyond metros as well, right? We keep talking of the other cities, the next growth hubs. In many tier 2 cities, your physical stores are the first exposure for organized retail, right? For the consumer experience, right? How long before do you think quick commerce will come and complement that journey?
I mean, see, whenever a new format comes, and we are talking about quick commerce in this case, it only increases the market. We want people to experience brands. And by the way, I think the most happening cities in the country right now are tier 2 and tier 3, and not necessarily metros in terms of demand and premiumization. I'm very happy. I mean, whenever the Zeptos of the world or Instamart comes, it is good for us. So, I mean, we are quite happy with that, because I see this as increasing, and especially, and we have seen this when I launched Zovi in 2011, and now when we see Zepto and other guys come in, they increase the market. And because the brand gets, or the consumption of the brand gets seeped into the consumer, and out of that, there will be a certain section of consumers who want to premiumize and experience retail, and they will come to us. So as long as we stand with our promise, I see everybody complementing each other. I mean, it's a win-win. In fact, for example, not with the team here, but we work very closely with Instamart, right? So we sell some of our private labels there. We also are looking at an opportunity where we do a co-branded something on the loyalty. So I think we see all this as a complement. It's not a competition.
On that note, thanks. Devesh, for you, how do you see the scale beyond metros? Tier 2, tier 3 cities, do the economics hold, or does the playbook need to be reinvented? Because India is a large country, different micro markets within states and cities as well. At times, consumers are different.
Yeah, I think the key is not looking at a city level, it's looking at pockets. As I said, right, this model's success metric is how much can I maximize an order in a store? And if I can find those pockets anywhere across India, I think that's the model that we'll have to figure out. Obviously, certain dynamics change when you go to different cities, certain assortment changes when you go to different cities. All those things are very, very localized and nuanced. But the North Star metric is to sweat it out again, right? So how do you use the capability of our processes, our backend, to ensure that we maximize the output there? I think that's what all of us look at. And there's a lot of data that goes into it to identify which pockets and densities will ensure that this is a profitable store.
Thank you so much. I know we're nearly up for time, but maybe I'll just have a quick round of a few questions and thoughts, maybe a rapid fire, maybe starting off with Kavindra. I know maybe he will push the question onto you, but Kavindra, your views. One word to describe the future of quick commerce.
Very promising.
Okay, thank you. Pushpa, for you, speed versus profitability, what wins?
Sorry, speed
versus profitability. Your views.
Well, I think both. Why would I choose one?
Okay.
It's convenience, speed, and profitability.
Thank you. Devesh, for you, I know physical retail, you think declining, evolving, or reinventing? You were at Shopper Stop last evening, so
I think everything's evolving.
that's nice. And I think maybe the last rounding thoughts, you all said this before, but the consumer, she's owned by, in your views, Kavindra, the brand, platform, or ecosystem?
By the consumer. Nobody has the right. I would not let me be owned by either Shopper Stop or DLF or Zepto.
Yeah.
And I'm a
Consumer is
consumer.
owned by her own persona, personality, requirements, needs, and that's the way it will be.
Yeah, my
Devesh?
answer remains consumer owns us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's been really insightful, and I think hopefully the audience has, really learned a lot from this. I don't know whether we have time for questions, but if there's anyone has a question, I think fair enough. Time's up. Thank you so much, Kavindra. Thank you, Pushpa. Thank you, Devesh.
Thank you so very much, Milind. Ma'am, I'd like to request you to please stay with us on stage for a little bit longer because you gracing this platform in itself is amazing. I would love for Milind to please present each of you wonderful speakers with a token of our appreciation. As we present the gifts to all our wonderful speakers, I want to remind all of you that I look forward to you adding a lot more of your flavor. We had such amazing thoughts being shared. My only request is you please take pictures, videos, add a little bit of what your key takeaways have been. All you've got to do is head to your social media handles, whether it is X or more. And to thank you, Milind, for moderating this session, may I please have the pleasure of welcoming Ms. Rima Punya here, because who could have come up with such amazing questions and put it all together? You did it brilliantly, and maybe present you with a gift right here as we thank you. I want to share with all my wonderful delegates that we have a lot of amazing content that we are presenting on this stage, and I would love for each of you to add to that element right here. So let's create a group photograph with all of you as we bring a lot more action and as we talk about how MAPIC India Shopping Center Summit and Awards is truly an addition for us to take back a lot many interesting segments and key takeaways. So thank you so much for your presence. Thank you so very much, my Power Pack panelists, adding